that demand was ignored, he said, I'm going to put the heads of the intelligence office and the police force into jail. Musharraf felt that his executive power was being threatened. He called the Chief Justice in and said, I want you to resign right now or I'm going to suspend you. Now, the history of Pakistani judges have been that they've been very subservient to military dictators, and he thought that this gentleman would do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Chief Justice was not...
What is his name?
Justice Iftihar Muhammad Chaudhry.
Iftihar Muhammad Chaudhry.
Yeah. And he thought he would resign, but the Chief Justice stood his ground. He said, I'm the Chief Justice of Pakistan. It's an equal branch of government. You do not have the authority to suspend me. Mm-hmm. He placed him under house arrest. He's placed his wife, his 3 children, one's 16, one is 18, and he's got a physically disabled 12-year-old child. They're all put under house arrest. They forklifted their cars, they cut off their cell phone, they cut off their water, and basically prevented anybody from talking to them. The Chief Justice was able to get a message out to Munir Malik, and I mentioned that
out to who?
Munir Malik. I mentioned that name before. Is a friend of mine who went to Santa Clara Law School with me. And he became one of the attorneys for the Chief Justice, and he started a rally in Pakistan against what Musharraf had done. That rally mushroomed, the lawyers got involved, the public got involved, and they said, we need to free the Chief Justice. That put a lot of pressure on the remaining justices of the Supreme Court, who decided that what Musharraf had done was illegal. And this was in March 9, 2007.
A year ago.
This was a year ago.
That he was put under...
That was its first suspension.
Yeah.
He was suspended. Just the Chief Justice Iftihar was suspended. Mm-hmm. The Supreme Court decided that was illegal. That suspension was lifted. The Chief Justice was released. He took over his oath. Musharraf said, I'll accept this and I will work with this. Come November, Musharraf is up for re-election again. But he's ineligible to become president because under the Pakistan's constitution, no sitting servant of the government can run as president, and he had remained as the chief CNC of the Pakistan Army. Mm-hmm. So that matter came up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court was going to rule that Musharraf, you're ineligible to run. He found out, and instead of just arresting the Chief Justice this time, because that had not worked the last time, he disbanded the Constitution, came up with an order saying, here's a new order, all the judges swear allegiance to me, you cannot challenge anything that the executive does, and otherwise you're under house arrest. A majority, almost 50 judges of the Supreme Court and the High Courts refused. He arrested the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and the Chief Justices of 2 of the High Courts. That's the state court level judges. Put them under house arrest, had subservient judges swear allegiance to him, and moved on.
So how many people did he put under house arrest?
We're talking about 50 justices at least, and these are the top level judges. And
okay, but those included more than just the Supreme Court.
Yeah, they included the High Courts also. It's the state High Court judges, like the state Supreme Court judges.
Mm-hmm.
Then the lawyers' movement started, and he arrested all the members of the Supreme Court Bar Association, the High Court Bar Association, and the attorneys. About 4,000 to 6,000 attorneys were arrested that we know of. Mr. Munir Malik was put in jail. He was tortured.
This is your friend?
This is my friend, who went to Santa Clara Law School, by the way. And he was given contaminated food, put in an Atak Fort prison, which is one of the worst prisons in Pakistan. And they wouldn't give him medicine, his kidneys failed. And they would not get him medicines on time. They could. The facilities are not there to give that. I mean, this is a horrible prison. Luckily, on the last day that he would have probably died if somebody had not come in and checked him, they found out that this person's going to die, we better release him. So they released him, and he came home, and it took him about 6 or 8 weeks. His kidneys are now working. This is the gentleman that, interestingly, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren has personally taken an interest in him. Wrote to the Pakistani ambassador, wrote to the U.S. ambassadors, wrote to the Secretary of State, and I think that helped save his life and get him out.
People here. Are there other connections between these attorneys, lawyers in Pakistan?
Well, locally, the Santa Clara Law School has been very active because Munir went to, is a cum laude graduate of Santa Clara Law School, and Professor Eric Wright and Dean Polden also got involved. The law school professors also wrote a letter to the Pakistan government and to the U.S. Secretary of State saying we need to restore the judiciary, we need to release Munir Malik.
Okay, what about the other 4,000
The
lawyers?
other 4,000 eventually, some of the lower level attorneys got released. Another attorney that just got out was Ertazaz Ahsan. He succeeded Munir Malik as the president of the Supreme Court Bar Association.
Mm-hmm.
He was kept under house arrest all this time. He finally was released after the election when his party won the majority, not an absolute majority, but most of the seats. That's the People's Party.
Yeah.
And then he was released, so he's now out.
Okay, let me get the chronology straight here. These arrests took place before the election. Is that?
These arrests took place before the election. The election, I believe, was on February 20th. These arrests started after November 9th, which is when, on November 3rd, when the general disbanded, tore up the Constitution.
So, Musharraf, his party, lost the election.
Right.
Does that mean that all these people that were arrested are now released, or not?
Well, Chief Justice has not been released yet.
Well, why not?
The Assembly just got sworn in last week. It took about a month to seat the Assembly. There are negotiations going on. They've all pledged that they're going to release the judges, but there's some issue as to whether constitutionally what is required to have the judiciary restored.
I see.
So that's being worked out right now.
Yeah, we should mention that we are taping this on March 22nd. When you said last week, that was
okay.
March 15th or something like that. So this program might not be broadcast for another month or so. So we have to keep that in mind. Okay. So is there a good prospect for his release then? Chowdhury's release once the Assembly is seated and.
Well, interestingly enough, it depends a lot on what the U.S. does, or what pressure the U.S. puts on Musharraf.
Oh boy, he's in trouble. At least until next year.
The U.S.'s position has been, since the Chief Justice has been active in some of these investigations on people who are missing, and some of those have been, frankly, are missing at the behest of the U.S. These are people that the U.S. felt needed to be either brought to Guantanamo or Afghanistan or some other places. So without any charges, they were arrested, and Musharraf actually sold these people to the U.S. for $3,000 or $4,000 bounty or something.
Really?
So there's a real concern, I believe, on the part of the U.S. whether they should allow a Chief Justice to investigate all that or not. So the deal that has been offered is, let's restore everybody else but not the Chief Justice. And the rest of the judiciary in Pakistan has refused. So is there a chance that this is going to happen? It is going to happen, because I think there's enough of a civil society now developing in Pakistan that they're going to maintain that it's important for the rule of law to be established, that an order that just tears up the Constitution, throws out the entire Supreme Court judiciary, cannot be upheld. So I believe it is going to happen. It may take some time.
I see. This includes his family as well. You said his family was under house arrest.
His family is under house arrest.
And they remain under house arrest.
The kids can't go to school. They can't even go into their backyard. There's police picket lines. There's barbed wires around the fences. He has no phones or connections, but every now and then somebody smuggles him a little SIM card or some chip so that he can make a call or two and get a message out. Mm-hmm. But that is a very, very terrible situation that he's in. The other thing that has happened is these judges are not getting any salaries. They live in government-provided houses, so they're being asked, they're facing eviction in some cases. They have no medical benefits. So they're starting to have a real financial pinch on themselves. And these people have just stood up for the rule of law. They say, hey, here's the Constitution. We expect you to follow it. What is our crime? And Musharraf had sworn to uphold the Constitution, and he tore it up.
Yeah. Well, these lawyers that were arrested and the Chief Justices, are they getting support at all from the United States or from groups in the United States?
The U.S. Lawyers Committee has been really very involved in what's happening in Pakistan. The American Bar Association held a rally in support of the lawyers in Pakistan. In San Francisco, there were rallies in support of the lawyers of Pakistan. A group of lawyers went to Pakistan to find out on a fact-finding mission as to what is going on. So I think the legal community, not just in the U.S., but in the whole world, has been very, very supportive of the lawyers' movement, because they realize it's an issue of, do you decide things by some other method than the justice system? Because if you don't have, what is the role of the judiciary? Judiciary is an impartial arbiter of things that go on. They balance one extreme against another extreme position and resolve something amicably. If you don't have the judicial system, you'll have these extremist terrorists basically doing what they want, and the moderates and the people who are standing up for the rule of the law will not be heard, and you'll have a much worse situation in Pakistan. It becomes